Okay, it's 6:04 and I'll call the meeting to order for the Wells Springs Unified Union School District. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. First order of business is to approve the agenda. Just need to add contracts to personnel under resignation. There were some additional personnel contracts that came in this afternoon. So with that amendment, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Amanda, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Carries. On the general public comment, is there anyone wish to speak tonight? Okay, onto the consent agenda. So we have the consent agenda, minutes from last month, and warrants, check warrants 431, 433, and personnel. We'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda as well.
I'll make that motion as well.
Well, any discussion related to personnel resignations, the warrants, or the minutes? Any changes to the minutes? Now would be the time.
Is any of the resignation, are we discussing that in executive session, or is that just now?
Now, I mean, if you had a question about not necessarily the individual, but
no, right. I didn't know if we post, like, is that been filled? Has anybody applied? What is the process with that?
So the position was posted on School Spring on Monday, and there is a plan that way we'll share an executive session.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. So if there's no other questions, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye. Aye. I would add we accept resignation with regret.
Okay. You can do that too. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, on to reports. So we have superintendent's report.
Thanks, Eric. I apologize for the camera not being on, but I have having issues with the internet tonight. So this is the time of year where our main focus really is on budgeting and preparing for our town meetings. Obviously, Lewis will review and go over the second draft of the budget with you here in a little bit. In my report, I did provide an update around the Vermont Redistricting Task Force. As all of us know, where we are right now, that the Redistricting Task Force provided a final draft of the report to the Governor Scott and then now the legislature. I did place a copy of that final report in your shared local board folder. It is a lengthy document, and what I did provide in the superintendent's report was just a kind of a brief overview, just with highlights. Will notice that there really isn't anything new from the draft to the final report. But as we saw with Governor Scott's address, that he believes the report fell short of his expectations. So we do understand that during this legislative session, this will be highly scrutinized, and we will see some other moves in place as we see what the legislature is going to do and what the governor is going to do. We will provide updates to the board as well as to our community. I've also got the VSBA position paper, which all of you as board members should have received via their weekly updates or the email, but I just placed it in our folder just for another copy of that as well. So, and then what we will be doing as part of our budget communication plan, excuse me, is next week there will be a letter going out to the community and to our families, just asking for feedback on the draft of our budget. So, and similar to what we've done in the past, and we will make sure that we work with Amanda and the Wells Springs newsletter that goes out that the board sends out that has a little bit wider reach than we have just by sending out to our listserv. So we'll make sure that that letter also gets filtered out to the community via that as well. So I'll be more happy to take any questions on anything if there are any at this point, but
Questions? Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Okay, on to the principal's reports. Carolyn, would you like to?
I'll go first. The past month, we did a joint, kind of like academic day started with a performance by a company called Tiger that came in and it was an anti-bullying, talking about bystanders, roles that kids play, and Middletown Springs joined us and they stayed for lunch. We did workshops with the company, and then we did some academic game challenges. I think the kids had a really great time. It was a lot of fun to spend the day together, and it was just overall a really great experience, and I'm kind of hopeful we'll do something like that again, because we were able to split the cost of something that would really probably not have been as doable for us. So it was great to be able to do that. We are presently in the midst of doing a countdown until our holiday break. Kids are celebrating with Spirit Days, and each morning Miss Frangio sings a verse of a song to let them know there's just a special treat to start their day. And as we've progressed from 12 days down, I think they're kind of getting into it and enjoying it, and it kind of gives them something to look forward to every day. As far as the last board meeting, it was requested that I put out a survey, and I did put out a survey to parents. I had 12 family responses, and the questions were just, are you interested in signing your child up for skiing or snowboarding? Interested in signing up for ice skating? Interested, if you answered yes to either, would you need transportation? And would you be okay with the school allocating between 11,000 and 28,000 to fund this program? Of the responses I got, everyone was a yes, and there was one family that was a resounding no to all of it, not adding it to the budget. And the responses only came from the people that would be affected by it next year. So it would apply to them. And then the other question was about busing. And we kind of went about it a little bit differently and spoke to the bus company and the bus driver and talked about one person being able to cover the area that it would include. And a couple of the things that came up were the amount of time that it would add to like children riding the bus. And we asked and talked about, well, what would happen if we had like a meeting spot? Problem with elementary kids is you have to make sure there's somebody there to pick them up. And so that could really cause bumps in the road. And I'm not really sure that that's exactly I don't know if there's another option. I know some days our second bus is limited in the amount of kids that get on and off, but I'm not sure going down to one bus is really a great answer at this point.
Would you say how much time?
The one bus driver indicated from where his route would start, some kids would probably be on the bus for about an hour and 40. Because it is like a radius of about, I think we said 21 miles he anticipated, because it does come into Granville, go up Route 31. And then we actually come on this side of Wells as well. Yeah, it's funny because we looked at families and said, are those kids still going to be attending here? And from the farthest end of each part of the route, yes, they will be.
Okay.
And we added in the potential pre-K kids that it would affect.
All right. And these are all elementary families, right?
Yes. Yes, it's just the kids that would be K to 6.
Okay. That's good to know. Did anyone have any questions for Carol?
Carol, in being that sometimes bus 2 only has a few kids, would those kids that are on an hour 40 really just be the kids that are first on, first off, kind of that handful of Sawmill and Lisbrook kids? Or would it be kind of extended? I just wonder if, like, since there's only a few days that maybe we go that far, because not always are they getting on bus 2, if knowing that they might only have a long route 2 days a week or something might still be worth the $40,000 or $50,000 savings.
I'm not, I guess I'm not understanding your question. Why would they only be getting on 2 days a week?
I just meant, like, because many times it seems, unless I'm kind of getting like secondhand information and maybe it's not correct, but it seems like the students that are the furthest out aren't on bus 2 5 days a week. So therefore that extended time period wouldn't be a consistent extended time on the bus. Do you know what I mean?
But I do know what you mean, but there are 2 families that are at that far end of that route that are always on that bus. They're one stop away.
Any other questions? Okay. Jessica.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so at Middletown Springs, that was a great event. Carol, thank you for having us. We also started a reading challenge. David Smith came to us from Cognia Read, and this challenge goes from December 8th to January 30th. The challenge is that every kid reads 20 minutes every night. And then the more kids read, the more tickets they get and the more prizes they have to win. Our all school Cauldrons character trait for the month of December is trustworthiness. So we did a team building activity. We actually did this over at Wells. So it was a lot of fun. Artist in Residency is this week. So he's teaching our kids dances and different types of music. And we have a whole school dance on Friday. So parents can come in and watch from 2 to 3. We've got scope and sequence building going on. So our December professional development was based around the GRCSU scope and sequences, but kind of more in depth. And so they're kind of building those and working together, and they're really excited about it. We had our whole school reward was popcorn and a movie. So we did that. We enjoyed ourselves. As for the physical plant, our pressure tanks are going. They are extremely expensive. So we just want to keep kind of bringing attention to that. We got some repair work right outside in the down the side of the building by the multi-purpose room doors, over where there was a flood last year, kind of that stairwell, and again right out in the front, and they came right in time, like literally the day before the snow. So that was done. Advanced water canceled on us, so we are planning them for December. We also met with Control Tech, and we kind of talked about the differences between the two buildings, the contracts that we have. So he's emailing us a few things. He gave us a lot of information. It's a very, very different system than the system at Wells. We also have different things to heat the building. So that's why there's a major difference in that. And we also have someone who's doing the foundation in the entire front of the building. It's all crumbling and falling down in May. We had a Veterans Day lunch. It's very busy in elementary school. We had a Veterans Day lunch. FFE continues to raise a significant amount of money for our students. We hosted a movie night. We went to Wells for that assembly and did those fluency games. It really was a lot of fun. Sixth grade hosted their annual spaghetti dinner, raised a lot of money. That was personally my first time there. It was a great event. The students had a dance. We're doing Decked Out December. The artisan residency, that final dance is on Friday at 2:00, and winter sports begins when we get back. I wasn't sure if I had to give an exact amount. We were talking about different ranges, but just for knowledge, at our school with 55 students, including busing to and from Pico, the rentals, it's about $7,500. So that's kind of just what it would entail. And we are fundraising, and we're really excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Jessica? Thank you both. I Amanda, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jessica, the 7,000 for Pico, that includes their lessons, rentals, and the bus. Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Yep. I actually broke it down to a couple different things. So we actually included ice skating. So we're doing the 6 days and ice skating. But if for the bare bones, it's about 7,700, but that's, numbers can change. And that is with rentals, with lessons, and with all the perks that Pico gives. Killington also has a program. It's about 3,000 to 4,000 more.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, on to old business for the facilities and the 5-year capital maintenance plan.
Jessica and Carol have put in your packet an updated facilities plan, actually accomplishments, things that have been done and things that are coming. We've been looking at our 5-year plans recently with Carol, Jessica, and Ernie, and that should also be in your packet as well. Fiscal 27 budget tax rate, or wait a minute, wrong one. My bad. Well Springs UUSD facility report. We just wanted to highlight some things before we get into approving the budget. And we're looking, for both schools over years 27, 28, and 29, close to 210,000, in maintenance for those 3 years at each school. So we wanted to make the rest of the board aware of that. As Jessica mentioned, we've got the water pressure tanks. We had that in there for 2029, but it's looking like we may have to pull that in. And that estimate was 83,000. And at Wells, we've got the furnace, which is in the 2028 year. And we've estimated 100,000 for that. So as we make our budget this year, if there is a surplus, which we expect it, normally we put a portion of that into capital maintenance. And I'm just wondering if we need to put all or most of it in there so that we're prepared for the next few years. Carol, Jessica, you have any comments?
I mean, I think the discussion had happened, and if we're really looking at doing what we need to do to make sure that the buildings are running efficiently and effectively, I think it's a part of plan really to look at.
Yeah, do you have a copy of that plan? I don't see anything in the drive.
I didn't.
I had put something in there called Well Springs UUSD Facility Report, which was, I submitted it to Christine,
Okay. Yeah.
but I just pulled some things off the actual spreadsheets. And those were in the packet last time, which probably should have included it again this time.
Okay.
But we do have a lot out there. We do have older buildings, and we just want to make the board aware again of what's coming up. I had some discussions with Lewis about this. He was very helpful. We also talked about possibly in the future actually earmarking some of this in the capital maintenance fund for a specific project. But that's something we will probably have to look at soon.
Mary Beth?
Yeah, just really quickly, I can't, I guess in the last 3 or 4 years, I can't remember a year where we didn't go through the entire school year at Middletown Springs without either losing water pressure or there was a water issue that was grave enough to shut the school down either early or for the full day. So I just wanted to, just to make sure that, Jessby knew that there, people had talked about it before, that there was either, we've got kind of like a quick email saying, hey, we don't have any water, as of state regulations, we can't stay open. So that school day was either shut down early or, canceled altogether. So I want to say that at least in the last, good job, at least a couple of years, that's been, a concern of ours as parents. And then, so I feel like if we were to use a good amount of the surplus towards some of those identifying projects that we have that can't be pushed till 2029, I would support that as a board member.
Okay. But George, we have enough money in the capital maintenance fund now. Is there a reason why we just wouldn't move forward with that project as soon as possible?
I would have to defer to, which one are you talking about? The water tanks?
That's the one I was referring to, but potentially both. I mean, if the furnaces and wells are a priority as well, we can look at both of those projects at this time. If those are priority projects, we really shouldn't be waiting. It'll cost a lot more in the long run if we defer and something happens.
Well, we've had that discussion, right, Jessica, about pulling that one in. As far as the furnace at Wells Village School, Ernie's been working hard on that to kind of stretch that one out, but it is coming. Yeah, if we need to move sooner on the water tanks, we should, absolutely. And we do have the funds for that, but then how do we replace that for the other things on our list?
Yeah. Well, I have a few thoughts, some of them which I spoke to you about that I'll bring up tonight. As far as the boiler, I mean, I guess at this point, it's not going to get done before this heating season or for this heating season. So that's potentially something we should look at for a summer project where we could utilize whatever we put into the budget. Because by the time you go out to bid and you're looking at least 2 months, and then we're in the middle of February at that point. But the water tanks, we can definitely start that process sooner rather than later if that's a priority.
Yeah, agreed on that. And as I spoke to you about earmarking money, I had in mind the boilers at Wells Village School. Start building up that money.
Yeah, I mean, since we're talking about facilities, I'll just go into it now. So, I mean, when we look at surplus, there's a few ways that we can handle it. So typically, the two main options that we look at when we're talking about surplus is we either put an item on the ballot to move a portion of it or the full amount to a capital improvement fund. That's definitely a good way if you're trying to put money aside for future years. The other option that we typically do is, if we're not doing that, is we give it all back as revenue or a portion back as revenue, which lowers the education spending, therefore lowering the tax rate. A third option is, and something that we actually did in Rutland Town this past year, is because this surplus is one-time money, we put a one-time expense into the budget. So we would put under repairs, we would put a new repairs line in the budget and identify exactly what we're looking to use it for. And so in this case example, we can use it for, say, we can put $100,000 for the boiler, you can put Wells boiler repair. You put the $100,000 in surplus in, you put the $100,000 in expense in, the two offset each other. And then next year, when we look at the following year's budget, the revenue goes away and the expense goes away. And therefore, we're not looking at any impacts to the FY28 budget. So in this case, where we have a project identified, it seems like that might be a good scenario for some of our surplus, where we would put that one, and our budget's in really good shape right now. So that's a good option, is we put in a specific line item right in the budget. And then if the budget gets approved, then that line item gets approved. Whereas if you put a separate item on the ballot and that gets voted down, then the only other option at that point is for that money to go back into education spending. So when we look at the tax rate, we kind of have discussed that a little bit more and see exactly how much of the surplus we want to move to possibly utilize for that purpose.
Okay, Mary?
Yeah, thanks, Lois. I know we've talked about using the surplus to buy down the tax rate in previous years. And you can probably get us those numbers before the next meeting. But I remember, if I remember correctly, since the surplus is so small, buying down the tax rate using that money really doesn't make that much of a difference. Am I correct in?
So it's about 133,000, which is probably a little bit over a penny on the tax rate.
Right. Right. So could we use the surplus and build that into the budget?
Yes,
Like,
that's
we
that's something that
use the surplus for, okay,
that's something the board will have to decide. Yes. Well, so just to be clear,
okay,
it'll go in the budget as a revenue, but then we'll just have an offsetting expense for whatever the board decides it wants to use it on.
okay. Thanks, Louis.
Any other questions on the 5-year capital maintenance plan? I don't know if maybe you can just email that to us, George. You're muted.
Okay.
Okay, so if there's no other questions on the facilities, I think, there's a lot of consideration too in regards to the budget, but we'll be talking about more here soon. Okay, on to finance. So we have the monthly reports really quick. Did anyone have any questions on the monthly reports for Lewis? Okay, and then onto the announced tuition rate. Every year we approve our announced tuition rate, and which is, the recommendation is 18,500. Yes. Any questions, discussion on the announced tuition rate? So usually, like every year, this goes up about the same, like around like 1,000 or so. And is that based on like certain factors or?
Not really, it's just sort of a guesstimate. So I look at what our other area schools are, so I've listed those here as to where we are and where other schools are. And in the past, I've gone up anywhere between 500 to 1,000. I think last year was a $500 increase. This year I went up by 1,000, just to get us more in line with some of the other area schools.
Okay. Yeah. And this only just, and I'm just trying to refresh my memory. This just really applies to students attending.
Yeah, very small impact. I think we currently have 2 tuition students that are attending, I believe, Middletown from IRA. So it's a $500 increase is $1,000 for the year. In this case, it's a $1,000 increase, so it's $2,000.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. All right, that's all the questions I have. Did anyone else have any questions? If not, we need a motion to approve our announced tuition rate for FY27.
I'll make that motion.
By Matt. Any discussion, further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Carries unanimously. Okay, on to the budget.
So tonight we're looking at draft 2 of the Wellsprings budget. So last month when we looked at the budget, we were showing that expense was up by about 16,000. Education spending was up about 92,000 or 1.5%. Those are really good numbers, especially considering what else is going on around the state. I'm sure many of you have seen the governor's and the tax commissioner's letters saying that tax rates are going up 12% statewide. That's not the case here in Wellsprings. It's also not the case in many of our other districts. So that's definitely something that when we talk about our budget and try to market it, we're going to want to get out into the public, even though the state average is 12%, and that's what everybody thinks is going to be the case in their towns. That is not the case here, and just give them all the information that they need. So looking at draft 2, there were just a few small changes. So total expenses now up 27,000, which is 0.4%, so less than 1%. Education spending is up by 104,000 or 1.7%. Some of the things that were updated since last month, vocational tuition, that's the students that are attending Stafford. Secondary tuition was updated. The SU assessment was updated based on draft number 3, and the SU board did approve that the other night. So, and there's no change compared to draft 3, so that won't have any impact. And then I added the professional service for the election costs that the board discussed at the last meeting of $1,200.
Meredith, did you have a question?
Yeah, I don't see this in our package.
You don't see the budget?
I don't know the draft 2. No.
I'm in there. I see it.
Okay. I'll keep looking.
Would you like me to email you a copy?
I see it as the fourth one down.
Yeah, it's the 2027 Wellspring second draft.
Meredith, I'll email a copy while Lewis continues to talk. I'll do it right now.
Okay. So before we discuss tax rate, I just wanted to see if there's any questions on the budget, any of the things that had changed. Based on the last meeting, it looks like there was some pending items that needed further discussion, such as the bus, which Carol gave a report on earlier, as well as the lifetime sports that was discussed. So that's another item that we'll need to look into further.
Mary?
Yeah, just really quickly. So I had emailed Lewis earlier today, and I just wanted to bring up the idea of either using the surplus this year or building the winter sports program, the lifetime sports program, however we want to word it, into the budget versus using the surplus for this year. And then also, as a member of FFE, which is the Friends for Education for Middletown Springs, it's like our PTA, they brought up the idea of discussing a speed bump in the driveway up to our school. I know there's been some concerns about how fast people are driving, especially since it's kind of like a narrow road, and we have little ones and big ones to worry about. So that was just something that on the next FFE meeting, they were going to discuss. And a member of FFE came to me and said, hey, if all the channels agree to this, either the school board or Jess and, Lewis down, how would we pay for this? So those are two things I just wanted to bring to the board, just about discussing for either building into the budget or using, the capital maintenance fund as far as the speed bump is involved, if everyone agrees that that's a good idea. And then obviously just the winter sports program we've been talking about for a few meetings now.
Meredith?
Have you talked with the town about this speed bump? Because it's a town road that goes, it's an emergency access too.
I have not. It was just brought to my attention. Our FFE meeting is on Thursday. So that was just on our agenda. And I was like, hey, that's a great agenda, point. And then one of the girls said, hey, if everything is approved, would we have to go to the school board to approve that addition? So if it's something that the town road, if it's a town road, then I guess I would suggest the FFE goes to the select board and go through those channels.
Yeah, they're gonna have to go through the select board, and I don't know what the fire department is gonna say about that also.
Okay, yeah, it's just a safety concern. So the FFE members were like, hey, you're on the select board or you're on the school board. Can you bring it up to the school board? So.
But it wouldn't be something the school board would pay for.
Right.
The town-
Okay, right. So maybe her question was more of, does the school board have to approve, the addition of a speed bump? But if it's the town road, then I can just move that conversation to the select board.
Okay. Okay, so I kind of lost your suggestion there. So you're suggesting using the surplus for sports for the Lifetime Sports?
No, I guess I'm just posing the question whether we should use the surplus this year to fund the winter sports program for both schools for next year, or if it would be well advised to build it into the budget for next year, considering, I think we had talked about a $10,000 mark for both schools. And obviously Lewis can get back to us on numbers. I can't imagine that would make much of a difference in the school budget. But that's just something that when I pose the question, it would have to be brought to the full board. So I know FFE on our end at Middletown Springs does a ton of fundraising. And then especially incorporating all of the kids, or as many as kids want to participate as, much as possible, causes a barrier. So we're kind of saying like, okay, if there's a barrier to engagement, how can we lower that barrier?
Right. Well, and that was, my thought would be that, this would be something we're budgeting for next year, not this year. And then,
Right.
And then also, because this is one of the things that we asked for information from our last meeting. And Carol did say that, the survey was 11 to 28,000.
Yeah, we just gave a range because
Yeah.
we're not sure what it would involve. And we do have more students than Middletown that would participate.
And so,
We had 12 families respond.
okay. And so there could be more. And,
Correct.
and that's why I understood that range to be,
Right, it was,
Yeah.
yes.
and so if we're gonna, if the board wants to fund this, that's something to take into consideration, how much, and then this is something that we're going to continue to fund for, so just throwing that out there.
Do you need a motion?
I mean, no, not necessarily. I mean,
Just a consensus.
yeah, it would be good to hear what people think in terms of taking, the surplus and reallocating it. Amanda?
I think that offering the winter sports program is definitely positive. I suggested it in the past. I just wanted to add that I happened to ask Bromley when I was signing my kids up, and the only requirement to receive a scholarship from them is for the family to have Medicaid or food stamps. So given that information, I wonder if that range would be even lower, because even if we put it in our budget, any of our families that are applying that may be on Medicaid would be eligible for a full scholarship at the mountain. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that even if we say that range of 11 to 20, we might have half of those kids that are eligible for scholarships. So it might just be a fluid number.
Is that for a lesson program or is that just for a pass?
No, that's for GISP, and it's the same way at the rink as well. But the rink only hands out 10 scholarships per school, they said.
But is just a lesson program?
Yes.
It is, okay.
Yes. I think it's a 10-week lesson program. And it's from 1 to 4. And that's at Bromley. But I did ask when I went to have my kids fitted, and that's the only requirement to receive a scholarship there, is that you have Medicaid or food stamps. So, and it's like $300 a kid. So if we have enough kids that are eligible for that, minus $300 each kid, that 11,000 might quickly turn into 5.
Mary?
Yeah, Amanda, do you know if they discussed at all like a max or like a top number per school, or is that kind of a policy that they have at Bromley that
I didn't
any-
ask.
Okay.
I didn't ask that question. I really just wanted to know what their scholarship process was and
Okay.
what the requirements were to be eligible. But
Okay.
we will be going there starting the first week of January. I wouldn't mind asking if there's a cap to how many they hand out per school.
Okay, great. Because I can imagine if Bromley has that policy, maybe like Pico and Killington have the same, and we just haven't looked into it thus far.
I don't believe Pico offers that. Their program's $144 program. I mean, for the year, it's a 6-week program. Many of our schools have been going for many years and
Okay.
there's no scholarships that they've offered.
Okay.
Just to be clear on the funding, I mean, this isn't really a surplus purchase because this is not a one-time purchase. This is, I'd imagine you're looking to have this in the budget ongoing. So this is just, would be a budget addition, that would stay in the budget for the future.
Matt?
Hey, so I am all for preparing our students with winter sports. So I think it's an advantage we have in Vermont, and we should be totally taking advantage of it for our kids. So I would set it at 10 grand per school just to start and see how it goes, and see what happens there.
Okay. That was my next question. What would be, I mean, I think that's a pretty broad range. And I think if we're gonna budget, okay, anyone else? Any objections? And I think this is for consideration. I don't know if we want to discuss all the other items that we have left over in terms of the budget, and then getting into the tax rate piece before we make any final decisions on what this is going to actually look like. Mary.
Yeah, I just wanted to second what Matt said, and then, if we had a $10,000 base, I think that would give maybe Jess and Carol a great idea of like a jumping off point where we could, potentially fundraise either, Wells PTA or Middletown FFE to, reach whatever, top number we're looking at. Say if, we expand and go to Killington next year, or, whatever the parents and kids decide. So I would second that for Matt, and kind of a jumping off point. I can't imagine, and maybe Lewis obviously can get back to us how much this would actually affect the budget, and percentage wise.
And the schools are different sizes too, so you may want to just consider a per student amount rather than a flat amount for each school.
Right.
I mean, because Wells has got an extra 30 so students,
Yeah, we probably have over 20. Yeah,
so.
we are losing a large 6th grade, but we still have more students.
Okay. All right. So I wouldn't even know where to begin on a per student amount.
I mean, I think you should come up with how much you want to put into the budget, and then we can divide it by student. There's roughly 130 students between the two schools.
I mean, I know, I mean, it'd be good to know, what would be enough, because in my opinion, a program like this, if we throw a lot of money in there without knowing exactly what it's going to cost, we could underfund it or we could overfund it, so I don't.
And if you're looking at providing transportation, that's a huge cost per week.
Yeah. Amanda?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I took my hand down. I was going to say what Lewis said was that Wells has more students. So I wouldn't say 10,000 to each school, just because it is like a, 25, 30 student difference. But maybe per student would be better.
Right. All right,
And
So
then,
Eric, would it be okay if we potentially looked at participation and instead of saying 10,000 per school, it's 20,000, you know, a $20,000, pool that either school can pull from? Because I think what Jess was saying is that, she hopes every single kid, engages in this winter sports program. And if every kid does, 55 kids with transportation, it's, the 7,000. I know pre-K is a little bit different, and then she planned for that as well. But I think her idea, and Jess can speak for herself, was that, we wanted to raise this money so there would be no kids in Milltown that had to pay the initial GIST program, so that obviously that money from wouldn't be a barrier to any family. So could we potentially look at this as like a pool of money that we could pull from, and that if there's more engagement for Wells, that's fantastic because they have more kids. If there's 75% of the kids in Middletown engaged, that's fine too, but maybe a pooled sense of, I'm not sure if that's even an option.
yeah. It's something to consider. Matt and then George.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if we're doing it by per pupil, per student, we did 200 and I think the count was 130. That's gonna be 26,000. It's a little bit more than 10,000 per, but with that excess money, this is up for the administrators to figure out, but I could see potentially there, the administrators could use that to, purchase winter jackets or gloves, just to have things available for the students, for when they go to the mountain. If they don't have that kind of gear, that's going to keep them interested and safe out there. So if we're putting a number per pupil, which keeps it, I guess, egalitarian across the both based off of the number of students, and I would say 200 would be my number. If we're doing it per school, I would say 10,000 per school.
George?
Hi, I just wanted to make sure that what we're discussing the funds for is just the winter sports program. My question is, would this be better served as part of an overall student activities fund that would cover fall sports, winter sports, basketball, soccer, things like that?
I think it's just winter sports like
That was the
skiing,
intention by side.
yeah, skiing, snowboarding, that stuff. Yeah, I think that's what it was intended for.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, so we have some suggestions, but I think we need to move on to some of the other considerations. So the bus. So we heard from Carol on the busing situation, and I think, previously we're considering getting rid of a bus. And so with that information, what would the board like to do in terms of the bus? How much would going down to one bus save? And it's something like,
if the route mileage and the route time doesn't change, it would be about a 40,000 savings. But if you now have a longer route that has more miles and more bus driver time, then it's not an even split, because
yeah,
you're then could be 30,000, it could be 20, it depends on how long the route is going to be.
yeah, because they, if I remember correctly, they do it by the mile, right?
It's a combination of mile and time, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and bus cost.
Because I thought like every time they make a stop, is that extend their time?
No, because we pay for a route and it doesn't matter. 10 new students can move in that have 10 new houses and that doesn't impact our price.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. So ultimately, I mean, it could be, minimal savings with that. Matt, you have your hand up. I don't know if that was still left up or.
I'm sorry, that's an old one.
Okay, any discussion on the bus? If not, I'll just take that as remain as status quo. Okay. Oh, Mary?
Yeah, like this can be obviously a conversation for another time, but has Middletown ever dived into the option of us having a bus?
Yeah, we talked about it last year. I think it was last year.
Okay,
And,
okay. I can always go back in notes, but
yeah, because we considered, maybe it was last year, or the year before.
I think it's
The year before, where we really considered getting rid of a bus. And that's not the first time. A while back, Rick Beal had done a survey of Middletown Springs families and about, because we were having the same discussion about, well, Wells has bus, Middletown Springs don't. Let's look at, and from what I remember, and anyone can correct me on that, was that the results were basically the families were fine with the way things were.
okay.
And, yeah.
Can I suggest that we do another survey? Because only if it was Rick Beal a few years back, so we've had Jessica this year, we've had Corey for the last 2 years. So if you're talking about a survey, I can imagine it's been done at least 4 years ago, if not longer.
Yeah, it was a while
Maybe
ago.
that's something. Yeah, maybe that's something either we can, that's okay, do as a school board, or we can talk about it at a later date.
George?
Yeah, as I recall, a lot of the roads in Middletown Springs, where students lived, where families lived, were not up to par for the bus to go on. There would have been a few pickup points for everyone. And I don't think that was objectionable. I just think it didn't make that much of a difference. If you're already driving down the hill on North Street to get to the square, you're at the school, if you know what I mean. And I would never say never redo the study, see what the families want, what our taxpayers want. But that was part of it. The buses could only go to so many places in town.
Yep, I remember that as well. Okay.
All right. So if there's nothing else on the budget, I'm gonna explain the tax rate sheet. So that was the last page in the document that was in the packet. So I'll go through the process and highlight some of the items that we need to be considering. So the first step is to approve an expense budget. We have full local control over that. Currently, our expense budget is up about 0.4%. The next step is to determine the education spending. That's the amount we need to raise in property taxes. That's our total expense minus any other local revenues. So we take away our tuition revenue, our surplus, our interest income, any SU refunds. You take that all off the expense, and what you're left with is education spending. That's the amount that the taxpayers will need to raise. We take then our education spending and we divide it by our long-term weighted ADM. This is a count that's done at the beginning of the school year, from day 11 to day 30. We then submit this data to the state, as well as a few other data points, and the state then weights that data based on several different factors, including population density, school size, poverty rates, ELL. I think that's all the factors. And it's based on a 2-year average. So currently we're seeing a preliminary number of 504 long-term rated ADM, which is a significant increase over last year. This is just a preliminary number. I am working with staff at central office to make sure that all of our data is submitted properly. Our ADM has not changed significantly since last year, so a lot of this difference is based on those weighting factors, and I think the biggest one is poverty. So that's having a huge impact on your tax rate because that then lowers your spending per pupil, which is the next step. So as you can see, education spending was up by 1.7, but once you apply those weighted ADM, we're now looking at a tax rate per pupil, or I'm sorry, a spending per pupil that is 3.76 lower than last year at $12,337. So we'll have a more definitive number by the next meeting on that long-term weighted ADM. The next step in the calculation is to take our spending per pupil divided by the property yield. The property yield is a number that's set by the legislators in typically April or May. So we won't have that number by town meeting. However, we do use the tax commissioner's recommendation. And this number was in his December 1st letter that went to all taxpayers. So we divide the spending per pupil by that yield to get a unified tax rate for the district of $1.39. The last step in the calculation is to take that equalized tax rate and then apply the CLA, which is the common level of appraisal. The common level of appraisal compares the fair market value of your home to the assessed value of your home. If the fair market value of your home is higher than your assessed value, and this looks at a 3-year average of all homes across the town, so if the fair market value is higher, then the CLA drops below 100. So as you look at these CLA numbers, this is saying that Middletown's assessed values are undervalued, and currently Wells values are overvalued. And the big difference here is that Wells just recently had a reappraisal. And so their number is a lot higher. The other thing that you need to keep in mind is that this number recently changed last year, where their state is now applying a statewide adjustment factor to your actual CLA. So in the past, your CLA was just based on fair market value compared to assessed value. But I think it was last year, there was a lot of scrutiny over the CLA because everyone's CLA was so low and everybody was seeing their tax rates significantly impacted by the CLA adjustment. And so they then applied this statewide adjustment factor, which is approximately a 72% factor. And they apply it to both CLA and the yield. And so the net impact is 0, but it's just shifting the calculation more towards CLA or it's just shifting the factor between those two numbers. So when you look at actual CLA, Middletown is probably around 70% and Wells is around 100%. I don't have those actual numbers in front of me. These numbers are based on last year's CLA numbers. We have not received this year's numbers yet. Those typically come out around December 15th, but the last couple of years, they have been running about 2 weeks late. So we will have better numbers to look at when we look at the budget next month. But if these numbers stay the same, you would be looking at a tax rate decrease of about 10 cents for Middletown and about 7 cents for Wells. So currently we're looking at three factors in this calculation that are all still estimates. The yield, the long-term weighted ADM, and the CLA. So all three of those numbers can and possibly will change. This adjustment can change, but I think we're in really good shape. I wouldn't expect for this number to drastically change in the other direction significantly. But I would think that they probably won't stay where they are today.
Any questions? Get that?
So earlier tonight, we talked about the facilities. We currently have $121,000 in surplus that is listed in here as a revenue. Does the board wish to put some of that into a capital improvement fund? Or do we want to put an offsetting expense into the budget to identify a specific project that we know we want to have done in the next budget cycle? That would be a one-time expense that would come out the following year.
George?
I think from our conversations, we've got enough right now to do the water tanks at Middletown with existing funds. If we were to put this in for anything, it would be for the boilers at Wells. Carol, do you think that might be necessary?
I mean, I think what you said before too is Ernie is really trying to keep us going, but if it's something we can do, it might be worth it. I'd like to talk to him again. He'll be in tomorrow.
I mean, pulling it in would help, from the cost growing over time.
Every 100,000 that you in the budget is approximately 2.3 cents.
Barry?
Yeah, I was just curious, like we have a 5-year plan. So if we don't continually add to the capital improvement fund through the surplus or other measures, how are we looking to pay for those projects that we know are on the docket from 24 to 29?
We do have $150,000 budgeted each year in repairs lines. There's 50,000 for Wells, 50,000 for Middletown, and 50,000 for Wells Springs to share. So, I mean, that is a significant amount of money that can be used for both small and medium projects.
So, Louis, that's outside of the capital improvement fund, correct?
Correct. That's directly in the budget.
Okay. And as far as this year, do we have we utilized all of those funds for projects, or?
I mean, if you look at the expense report, page 6, it's like we've spent 18 of Wells Springs, 19 of Middletown, and 19 of Wells. But then we have additional funds encumbered but not spent yet. So it looks like total that's unencumbered and unspent is approximately $55,000.
So doesn't that then go to the quote unquote surplus?
We're only halfway through the year, so an additional
Okay.
fund will get spent.
And then how are those decisions made to use the remainder of the budgeted?
Those are made by the principals.
Okay. And then if those funds are not used, they would potentially go into a surplus for 26, 27.
or 27, 28.
Okay.
So when it comes to the surplus and some of these big facility projects and stuff, it's interesting because, you know, some of these projects are pretty expensive.
Yes.
I mean, the water tank thing, really shocked the hell out of me when I saw that. And, the pressure tanks, and I'm just trying to picture, you know, how big these pressure tanks are for that cost. But you know, some of these projects we're starting to see are more than the 40,000 that usually needs board approval for. So, you know, I'm not sure if, you know, we kind of had this conversation before too, where looking at, you know, the future of the schools and the life expectancy of each building too is something to take in consideration. But I don't know, you know, my first thought is, you know, we've got almost 294,000 in the capital maintenance, but it almost seems like two projects and that's pretty much gone. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence, but I do think that, you know, these projects that are getting into some of these serious numbers, and these are the things that, you know, go beyond what's budgeted in that 150,000 for just the regular budget. You know, it is definitely something to consider. You know, looking at and approving each one of these on a, you know, anything over 40,000 on a case by case basis too.
But both of these projects would have to go back out to bid,
Mhm.
and any project that goes out to bid like that would come to the board for approval.
Yeah, because I'm kind of hoping, because you know, in your report, I think it said that, I don't remember, I don't want to try and, it was, with accurate estimates is what I saw. So, I'm kind of just hoping that maybe that it's not. That's the case, you know, like, I mean, I believe it, but, just saying like, maybe it won't be as much when it goes out to bid, you know.
I'm not sure of the difference in size, but so Proctor just went out to bid for their boilers. Proctor Elementary School went out to bid for one boiler, and it came in at $43,000. And Proctor High School just went out to bid for two boilers, and they got a bid for $90,000 for two boilers.
Yeah,
Again, I don't know the difference in the sizes and how that may relate to wells.
Yeah.
But it gives you some sense of hopefully idea of what we're looking at.
right. And that's a boiler. That's not pressure tanks. My thought would be a boiler would be a lot more, but, so, okay, so I'm kind of getting off.
If I may, I did send that synopsis out to everyone. I hope you received it. But
Yeah.
to your point, Eric, about, you know, what's coming down the road, that's absolutely in the back of our minds. But we're looking at things that we absolutely have to have in place to do our day-to-day job. You got to have HVAC. You have to have water. So, you know, as we get closer to these things, the estimates we do have bids. So the numbers are a lot more real. So hopefully it's going to be less. I like what Lewis just had to say, but I like this idea about putting that in the budget. I think we should consider that and get going on the water tanks with existing funds and then start looking at that boiler. But again, Carol, you said you wanted to talk to Ernie first, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna happen right away anyway, right?
No, we were looking at, if the board approves putting it in the budget, we
Yeah.
would work on it this summer.
Absolutely, so there's definitely time.
Okay. All right. So that was a, 121,000 for the surplus. Okay, and I think, we're just looking at that, that document you sent, budget areas of interest. It just has like a total number. Doesn't really say what projects, or is this just kind of a,
I mean, let's, just to look quickly at Wells Village School for this year, and I won't go into numbers, but we've got light fixtures, video surveillance, cost things, ceiling tiles, outdoor landscaping. Those are things that come out of this fund too. They're smaller by nature, but a big project like the water tanks or the boiler can eat that all up. And we still need the money for those smaller things as well. I think, Carol and Jessica, before our next meeting, we should look at the 5-year plans and get those out again to everyone. I know they were available last month's meeting, but
Yeah, I still have it. So it really hasn't changed that much. Okay, all right. That's kind of what I was.
you'll see the range of things that these funds cover. I think that was your question.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if this was just kind of like an extension of that.
Yeah, I just tried to pull out the big ones. Again, the things we need to do our day to day, like heat and water.
All right. Anyone else on facility considerations for the budget? And I think, and I'm not sure if the question was, to put any of the surplus into capital maintenance or just leave it in the budget. Amanda?
I don't know if this is an option or maybe it's already been resolved, but last month when we were talking about facilities, there was that price difference between our substitutes. Is there anything saying we can't use some of this money that's in the budget to offset that for the maintenance substitutes? Last month we were talking about that difference and affording that difference, and that there was a difference, so therefore there was a problem with getting substitutes, right? But if we have extra money that we can put into facilities, is there anything saying we can't use that to offset it, whether that be a stipend or something, so that Carol can have better luck getting people to assist?
Oh, I don't know. I think that's a whole nother subject. What's that?
That's tough.
Well, again, I think you're getting the surplus. I mean, surplus is one-time money. Should be only used for one-time projects or one-time cost. What you're referring to, sort of like Lifetime Sports, that's an ongoing cost. So if that's something the board wants to consider as something to put into the budget as an ongoing cost, the board could go ahead and do that, but we shouldn't be discussing using surplus for that. We should only be using surplus for
Yeah.
one-time costs.
And, yeah, and right now it's the consideration on whether we want to use any of it for capital maintenance or not. Mary?
Yeah, just really quickly. So I just, the capital maintenance fund isn't like a discretionary fund that the principals would be able to use as needed, correct? They would have to come to the board and use those capital maintenance funds.
Yes.
Was that a yes?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, right. So just thinking forward, I would support putting more of the surplus towards the capital maintenance fund than putting it back into buying it down. So that's just my vote on that. Considering what George and I look at, you know, every 3 months with Carol and with Jess, is that these projects they've been earmarked, they've been pinpointed, and we know we're going to have to come up with the money somehow. So I'd rather just have that surplus and then come back to a mom or two before, if the water falls or something else comes down the pike and she's like, hey, why is school closed? I'm like, well, because we saved you a penny in your in your tax bill. So that's my vote going forward.
Okay, how much?
Well, George and I talked about 75% of it with Jess and with Carol initially, when we looked at our 5-year plan. And I think our 5-year plan is maybe a year and a half into our 5-year plan. So I don't want to say like 5-year plan isn't like today. We've been looking at these projects for quite some time. If it was a significant impact to the tax rate, I wouldn't be so vocal about putting that surplus towards it. But considering it's a very nominal amount, I would encourage the board to look at putting maybe 75% of the surplus into that capital improvement fund, knowing we have these 5 or 6 or 7 projects on the docket that have already been pinpointed for wells in Middletown. So that's what I would support, 75% of the surplus going towards the capital improvement fund. And then if the remainder 25% was towards the winter sports program or towards back in the budget, that would be fine too.
Okay, so I'm a little unclear because we just talked about potentially using almost 80% of the surplus to put in a line item for the boiler. So are we looking at doing the 75% towards capital improvement instead of the boiler?
I think we didn't quite know what the totals were during our discussions, but if it covers the entire boiler, yeah, that would bump it up from 75%.
So the boiler money, we're not putting into the capital improvement fund, that we're putting that right in the budget.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, and this kind of goes off what you were saying last month. Money goes into the budget for,
Hold on.
Goes in one year and comes out the next.
gotcha. Okay. I remember now. I mean, either way, it goes into the budget. So even if you don't actually spend it, it's still there.
No.
Correct. The difference is that it will be a separate item on the ballot if you want to put it into the capital improvement fund.
Yes.
As opposed to right into the budget.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Anything else on the budget? I'm just trying to make sure we covered all the items that we initially talked about. And next month you'll have some more of the updated information, right? To approve the budget? Then?
Yes, next month we'll have updates on long-term rated ADM. That should be a pretty final number. And CLA should be final by next meeting. The only thing that'll still be pending is the yield.
Okay. Amanda?
I'm sorry, I'm just a little confused. Can you clarify, are we putting 100 and whatever that number was, 120,000 into the budget for the boiler and then 75% of the balance into capital maintenance, or is 75% of that total surplus going into capital maintenance and we would just spend the 100 and whatever on the boiler? It wasn't clear.
I'm not clear as either, so.
I think, yeah. I think what Lewis had suggested last month was that the surplus stay in the budget with the anticipated expense of these facility expenses, rather than having to put it on the ballot in the capital maintenance. But earlier I thought that was something that was being considered, was putting it in there. So I guess it's really just kind of what the board wants to do. As opposed to having it put on the ballot to put the surplus to go into the capital maintenance, or just leave it in the budget as is and plan for these expenses.
I mean, I would say Lewis does this, right? Year after year after year. So if he's saying it's better for us to put it into the budget, then we should put it into the budget. If he's saying it's better for us to put it into capital maintenance, the admin would come to us to approve their spending anyway. I just think we just said two completely different things before, like when Mary spoke. So I don't know. Either way, I guess we'll just need to clarify. Is it going into the budget or is it going on the balance for capital maintenance?
My recommendation would be to put 100,000 into the budget in the repairs line. It says boiler replacement. It would be identified in a separate line.
I think that sounds great.
Eric?
Yeah, I would support that as well. And then also moving forward, I know we talked about this last meeting, so not to kick it to the curb to the next meeting. If we could build something into the budget for the winter sports program for both schools, just like we have a fund for the capital improvement, we have one line for, Wells, one for Middletown, and then we have a joint fund as well. I would just, that's kind of been on my bucket list to check off. So, so I second Amanda. I think that's great. Thank you, Lewis, for your help. And then just to make sure that that's, however the board decides, that's at least in the budget somehow.
Okay. And so as far as the winter sports goes, or lifetime sports, whatever you want to call it, from earlier we had, what was it, 10,000 per school, 200 per student or something like that. I'm not sure if those are realistic numbers. So I'm not sure if that's something we can have more information on to consider. I guess I would ask the board, if is anyone opposed to having this in the budget? Because again, this is something that is being considered to fund year on. Amanda?
I don't know skating numbers off the top of my head, but being that we've gone to Bromley for a couple of years, I do know that the CAP program, which is kindergarten to second grade, is $150 per student plus a $100 rental fee. And the GISP program, which is third grade to sixth grade, is $250 per student with a $100 rental. However, after speaking with them, it seems like many of our students would be eligible for those scholarships. So if we said 200 a student, there should be enough of a cushion to cover those that are not, that are on scholarships, to make up that difference. But it is more than 200 a student at Bromley, at least. And that's saying they all do skiing or
Transportation.
snowboarding and not skating, right? Like skating was only like 186 a kid or something like that. I just don't remember off the top of my head because it's been a few years since I've looked into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it's a great opportunity for students, but I just don't want to throw money and just be like, this costs more than what we anticipated, you know, so I think it would be good to do due diligence to know exactly what this is going to do, you know, for the students, but also, to the budget as well. Meredith?
I feel like in the past, there were funds that like Rick used to fill in the gaps where FFE also had funds that were put forward. And I don't know, Lewis, if you know what Rick was using. Was it a Medicaid fund of some sort?
He may have used a little bit of our after-school money.
Yeah, that doesn't sound familiar.
There are no Medicaid funds available. We use Medicaid funds. It's actually a different form of Medicaid for the Girls on the Run and the boys version. I forget what it's called. Velocity. We use funds for that, but not for the winter sports.
Okay. I just feel like we've been able to come up with the funds, and I also know that he was driving the bus, and I wonder about driver availability for the Middletown program. It's been canceled before because they don't have enough drivers. But I am a bit concerned about this.
Concerned how?
The funding aspect.
Okay. Mary?
Yeah, so I think at our last FFE meeting, and then, Jess wants to speak for herself. I think she was able to at least fund this year, 24-25, just program with some after school money, which is what Lewis said. And Meredith, I don't remember any time where it was canceled because of lack of drivers in the last, I want to say 4 years that my kids have been doing the GIST program. So I know we were lucky enough to have Mr. Beal at the helm of the bus, which was fantastic. Sometimes the bus has been kind of late because of like pickup, drop off for other reasons. But in my experience in the last 4 years, being a parent, volunteering for each Monday at a GIST program, we have not had any issues with bus. So I wouldn't, so I mean, I'm not saying that wouldn't be a problem in the future, but I just would like to encourage the board to really consider funding this program.
Okay. I don't know if it's possible just to have some more realistic numbers and information. I mean, we talking, all kids, it's available to all kids in both schools, and, Meredith?
And I believe the Bromley program usually uses parent drivers who then get subsidized with tickets at Bromley, like they can ski afternoons or things like that. So I don't know what kind of transportation you're thinking about for Wells to Bromley. So I would really like to see some more accurate numbers.
I don't think I've driven the last couple of years and I've never been offered a pass. I don't know if maybe that's something that they just haven't offered or did in the past. But I do drive the kids, but they haven't offered anything for me doing that. It's just been that our school doesn't have transportation. So I take time off work to take them.
Mary?
Yeah, just like really quickly, I wonder if there's, some planning ahead to do where Wells would come to Middletown and board our bus or our buses and head to Pico, if that's an option. I know it's a little bit a 10 or 20 minutes drive out of the way. But if there's more of like if there's more parents that are involved or that can be involved in Middletown, and also we have this established bus route to Pico every Monday, and we leave at such and such a time, maybe that's another way, which I'm sure Carol and Jess are always, exploring other ways to combine our schools and have more activities with those two communities. So, I would be interested to see if, possibly we could do that in the future.
All right. Okay, anything else on the budget? Not for me. Anyone else? So I think next month we'll be looking at some more of the missing numbers, as Louis stated earlier, and we should be approving the budget next month. So if there's anything else anyone wants to consider, now would be the time. Mary?
Sorry, not to beat a dead horse, but so we are asking Louis, only because I've been very polite and very quiet the last couple months, but that we're asking Louis to build into the budget something that would accommodate both schools that would potentially fund a winter sports program.
We're asking admin to bring back some additional information around what this program would look like and what it would cost.
Okay, and then we could potentially ask Louis to build that into the budget for March is coming up quick, so our January meeting then, or would we think about the February meeting?
No, January.
Right,
For the-
okay.
Yeah. And this is all for next school year. So not
Yes, nothing, right, nothing for this school year. It's all been fundraised already.
Okay. All right, so that's all we have for the budget. We'll move on to general public comment. Did anyone online wish to speak at all? Okay. Next up is executive session. We had, when we set the agenda, I don't think we need to have this executive session, but since around contracts, that was so that's all we have for tonight.
So I'm sorry. So I thought we did have an executive session to discuss the contracts and personnel. Is that not? Because when I had asked earlier, we said we would discuss it in executive session.
No, it was for something else. And then we had the GRCSU meeting, so I don't think we need to.
So just during Carol's report, she said that she would have more information for us during executive session. So I just wonder if there is more information.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I don't want to speak for her, but I think that it was implying that if it was to be discussed, but I don't, to me, it's a personnel matter, and I don't see that as being necessary. And it doesn't really apply to executive session anyway, in my opinion, so.
Yeah, I guess my question kind of regarding that resignation then though was if we posted one position and we're losing a large 6th grade class, then next year, are we just combining another class? Do we need another teacher? Like that kind of plan. I thought that was the information we would be getting. because next year's sixth grade is 3 kids. And we already have a 4-5 combo, a 3-4 combo. So I felt like there was a conversation to have because it doesn't just concern the rest of this year. It's really a future decision.
So if you're talking about filling a position, that's be for executive session anyway.
But it's not eliminating a position, Amanda. It's just that person resigned. And so that position still exists. It's not coming out of the budget. No decision has been made about obviously staffing for next year. We don't know numbers. And that's always part of what happens and how decisions are made. It is a small 5th grade class, but that isn't even anything that's been considered at this point.
Meredith?
I actually don't know the details of what you're talking about. I was thinking we had issues with concerning contracts, negotiation, and budget things that we needed to discuss as a local board.
Still have a large 5. It's, it's, I think I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so you want to wait till next month?
Yeah, we can do that.
But I just kind of feel like it affects some of the things, the financials that we talked about this evening.
Okay. I mean, it's on the agenda. I think I know what you're referring to without going into detail. If you feel that you want to discuss it, we can still have the executive session. I just thought that we didn't need to. But again, so I'm not opposed to it. I mean, it's not going to take long.
I don't know what Meredith is referring to, but I'd be happy to discuss that too if everyone else thinks we need to. I thought what we would discuss in executive session was like how we got here and what we're doing, because based on the email that was sent, it seemed like maybe it was preventable. So I just don't know I guess just looking for what we are doing and how we are making sure it's not.
I'll just we'll just do this because I think I know what Meredith is referring to. So we will have an executive session, I guess, and but it's going to be specifically around contracts, and that's it. So if someone would like to make a motion to move into executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Mary, and so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
For an executive session at 7:47, and for those who are online, we will come back to this meeting link and finish out the meeting. Okay. Here we go. Okay, it's 8:02. We're out of executive session by consensus. Our next meeting is January 14th. Any agenda items anyone wishes to have on the agenda, reach out to myself or Chris. And Mary, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I'll just ask for another agenda item next time.
For next month?
Yes. Yeah. I was just wondering like when we would approach the idea that we brought up last time and then the month before as far as increasing the stipends for school board officials brought up by Amanda. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was a budget thing.
Right. So that was something I know I've talked a lot tonight, but if I went back on the minutes, that's been brought up, you know, probably the last 2 or 3 meetings. So,
Okay, yeah, so I'll make a note of that.
thank you.
I completely forgot. I mean, I did ask multiple times. So, okay, so I'll take a motion to adjourn at 8:03.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by George. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Motion carries. Thanks, everyone.